Hey guys, I'm back with a part 3. I am so overwhelmed by the support I've received following my intermediate guide for the Charge Blades part 1 and 2. It makes me so happy to hear that my guide has helped you. Following the release of Coral Pukei, I've picked the Charge Blades to go over builds first and cover some other things, as you guys probably need more attention than other weapons that have been around for a while. Don't worry, for the other weapons that I cover, bow, lightbow guns, and dual blades, I will get to them as soon as I can. With Coral Pukei comes a new skill, Power Prolonger, on the chest. It also comes with Rising Tide 1. It's a bit early at the moment, so please allow me some time to get around to testing it for the Charge Blades. It would most likely present a trade-off between Weakness Exploit 2 from Rathalor's chest, while all other pieces relatively remain the same. But it would need a lot of testing for me to verify how effective it is, how to use it, and in what circumstances it should be used in. So don't worry, it should not affect the sets that I will go through later. For any of you that might be wondering about latent power for the Charge Blades, which also presents a chest piece swap out opportunity, I have already begun deep testing and it looks like it will not be good on the Charge Blade weapon. I won't get too deep into that for this video, but the trade-off with Weakness Exploit 2 from Rathalor's chest is only looking feasible for the bow class, and maybe dual blades. But it's not perfect either, and seems to only be good on the spread or pierce bows. And even more specifically, only the Black Diabol's bow seems to have hope with latent power. Without going off on this tangent too much, stay tuned for an upcoming video where I will share with you all about latent power. Before we get into the builds, there are 2 secret commands about the Charge Blades that I only discovered recently, so I need to share it with you guys. The first secret command. If you want to avoid doing an SAED, you can perform just an AED by holding and just when you lock into the stance, swipe down quickly. This is a little finicky and you won't always get it right, and may end up unleashing an SAED. So in order to perform this consistently, you need to practice timing. Even I don't get it right all the time. So hold, and just when you lock into the stance, swipe down quickly. Reasons for knowing how to perform this include if you like playing with guard points, which would mean you should be playing with a Red Shield, as it can help you mitigate damage. And in this playstyle, you would want to be able to control doing an SAED or just an AED. Secret command number 2. If you swipe up before you get into AED stance, you will switch to sword mode and retain your files. Your files will not be consumed into your shield. Okay, some of you guys might already know about this, but I only just discovered it and I wish I knew it sooner. It will only be consumed when you've held down long enough to get into the AED stance before swiping up. So don't let your character reach the AED stance, simply swipe up quickly to get into sword mode. This is really useful if you want to get back into sword mode quickly without using your files into your shield. Otherwise, you can perform an AED to get back to sword mode. Alright, just one more thing. For you guys that have watched part 2 and seen this comparison between SAED and AED, I had mentioned that SAED does 30% more damage than a regular AED. But this is wrong. I messed up on to be honest, a very simple calculation, and actually SAED does 45% more damage than AED. And if you had listened to my explanation for how much time that would give us to get a 5-file Red Shield that lasts for 42 seconds, basically to make casting an SAED worth it, instead of 12 seconds, we have 18 seconds. But I also did not properly account for how this comparison involves just one SAED versus one normal AED, which is unrealistic for a whole 42 seconds of your Red Shield duration. You're probably going to unleash, say, 2 to 3 SAEDs and maybe 5 AEDs during 42 seconds, or more if you've got lots of openings. So don't pay it too much mind. My stance on Red Shield gameplay still remains. Performing just an AED for the whole hunt should help you arrive at roughly the same result. It's that you don't need to go out your way to get a red gauge. Store all 5 files in, only to infuse everything into your shield. Rather, look at the situation and spend some of those charges into regular axe attacks and AED. If you happen to have 2 files left, either left over or earned from a perfect evade or perfect guard, go ahead to infuse that into your shield, after which it would make sense for you to charge up maximum files to release an SAED before your red shield runs out. As for feeling like you're wasting time and losing out DPS by spending 5 files on a red shield, keep in mind to try casting regular AEDs on red shield, and if you're good with it, you're probably not going to lose out on much. That Red Shield AED does 20% more damage than a normal AED. Which brings me to my next topic, about other reasons for playing with a Red Shield, and how to build for it. In a Q&A format, this is also a foreword to my build recommendations, so you're gonna wanna pay attention here. Disclaimer: focus and quick work are both quality of life substitutes that are not crucial for dealing damage. Go with sets without these skills if you are min-maxing.
Why should I play with a red shield?
Playing with a red shield will allow you to better guard monster attacks safely and take less in-chip damage. It becomes less necessary for you to master perfect evades. It becomes safer if you have guard 1 and have upgraded your armors above monster defense requirements. More about monster defense requirements at the links in my description box.
Why choose focus if I'm playing with a red shield?
Playing with a red shield will increase your need to get to a red gauge sooner. You will run out of files more in these 3 ways. Files consumed to get a red shield. Guard into SAED consumes all your files. Although you can perform a regular AED during red shield, if you miss the timing for that, you will slip into an SAED and consume all your files. Focus 2 is a good in-between without needing to sacrifice too much in damage skills. With Focus 2, you can put in about 2 less normal slashes to get from white to yellow or red than at Focus 0.
Why choose quick work over focus?
Focus becomes less important if you're not playing to get a red shield, so you may choose quick work. Enjoy the better fluidity in and out of sword or axe mode.
I don't play with a red shield, but I prefer focus.
That's not a bad choice. Your preference and enjoyment matters the most.
I don't play with a red shield, but I like to use guard points.
If you're tanky enough or against lower star monsters, then that works. Word of caution: with a non-red shield, it is generally unsafe to guard monster attacks without taking more in-chip damage, especially if you're not running points in guard or it isn't a well-timed guard, which will cost you potions over time. Unlike main games, potions are not free, and grinding for grade 7.5 armors and above, breakpoint for 8-star monsters, are costly. If you are not playing with a red shield, you can still safely guard roars or Sitzi's flashes. I mostly recommend that you dodge out the way or go for perfect evade mastery. Alright, let's get into builds. Raw setups. First up, we have the most optimal for raw charge blade weapons. I did not include this in part 2 because I was still verifying its effectiveness. And I have good news. After watching a few videos, I noticed that burst can be kept up pretty well on the charge blades. In perfect play, you will see how it's done later, and it will help you do a ton of damage, especially in axe mode. Use this for perfect play, urgent quests, and for solo. This might not be great for multiplayer due to burst inefficiencies when you're juggling aggro with other players. I'll go through another setup later to help you with that. Now, let's look at how burst works with the charge blades and at which moments you can expect to activate this buff. Let's look at how this player activates and maintains burst. Charge slash 2 hits, round slash 1 hit into another charge slash 2 hits and store. Getting close, yellow button transition into an overhit swing. ED1 2 hits, ED2 4 hits, and he gets the burst here. Perfect evade. More axe swings. Dodge out the way, he still has the buff up. Breaking the forelegs. ED1 and ED2, and finally an AED. Burst is still up, and sword mode slashes finishes the Great Jaggers off. You will find that burst will typically come in during your first couple of elemental discharge attacks. That's what I meant by ED. If monster moves around a lot or you need to reposition or wait for openings, looping axe swing attacks or your ED attacks and avoiding AED will help you keep up burst better. For transition, use the yellow button for immediate storing and into axe mode. Follow up with axe swings to proc or keep burst up. But even if it goes off, you should expect it to come back upon charging up file gauge and when you do axe swings. Also with this set, you don't have time for a red shield, so don't use your files there. So go for this for dealing optimal damage on your raw charge blades, especially during axe mode. Next up, we have the casual set. In perfect play, this will do less than the optimal set, but this is where you won't be too punished by burst inefficiencies, where we use more in critical eye and weakness exploit to compensate for that. You will still be running a nice side of burst level 2. Use this for casual gameplay where you don't have to keep an uptime of attacks constantly and can play safe by spending more time dodging or waiting 2 to 3 seconds for monster openings. A lot less stressful and also good for multiplayer. Next up, we have the quality of life set. This is if you like quick work or focus. You'll be running quick work 2 from Odo Helm or focus 2 from Azure Radlos Helm. It also comes with a nice side of burst level 2. DPS wise, you will be running 2 less points in weakness exploit here than in the casual set. As mentioned earlier, Focus 2 will benefit a player using a red shield more, while quick work can be better enjoyed if you're not fussed with a red shield. Next up, if you are an enjoyer of both skills, then this here is a set that has quick work 2 and focus 2, without sacrificing too much in damage. You are still running critical eye 2, weakness exploit 2, and burst 2. Now, I have a last raw setup that I truly did not want to bring up due to its feasibility in late game 9 stars and 10 stars. And I still don't advise you to put in resources into this for the long game because it's not sustainable. Unless you're already at 10 stars and just need more challenge. Then okay, spread your wings. Anyways, I'm talking about Offensive Guard as I received a lot of queries about it. This set comes with a word of caution at the bottom. It says that this build is only safe for 8-star monsters and below, and you should play with a red shield, and to stay safer, upgrade your armor pieces to grade 7.5 minimum, because that is close enough to the defense requirements of all 8-star monsters, though you'd ideally want all of them up to 8.1. That however costs Wyvern Gem shards, and I believe you can get away with grade 7.5, because this build will also get you Guard 1 and Defense Boost 1, along with Offensive Guard 5 and Weakness Exploit 2. With the Offensive Guard playstyle, you will be looking to trigger Offensive Guard every 2 to 3 monster attacks at least, as each buff lasts for 10 seconds, so you will be attempting perfect guarding a lot. Miss the timing for a well-timed guard and you'll take more in chip damage, plus not get the buff. As you attempt this playstyle, you will also be training your muscle for perfect evading and not perfect evades. Since this build is only as effective as it is on raw weapons, if and when you get to elementals, you will not have attained a mastery level of perfect evading that you would otherwise have trained up had you went for the other more generic raw setups. And with the newly released Devil Joe taking 150% in Thunder and Dragon, the game's future is looking to be set in the elemental endgame. That being said, if you have the Offensive Guard buff up from first monster attack till the end, it is no doubt that Offensive Guard 5 and Weakness Exploit 2 will allow you to deal even more damage than Burst 5 Weakness Exploit 2. But it is risky, requires a lot of skill, and minimally grade 7.5 armors. Next up, Elementals. There is no change with the recommended Fire set, giving you Fire 5, Weakness Exploit 2, and a lock-on. Here's an alternative set that lets you run some quality of life skills. Fire 5 with Quick Work 2, or Focus 2. Recommended Water set. You can now run Water 5, Weakness Exploit 2, and Critical Eye 2 with lock-on. Previously, it was only with Critical Eye 1, but now you get an extra point here. Good stuff. Here's the alternative set that lets you run some quick work or focus. Recommended Thunder set. This set will get you Thunder 5, Weakness Exploit 2, Critical Eye 2, Lock On, and a nice side of Burst level 1. Again, with the Coral Pukei Helm, we get to run one more level in Critical Eye. Good stuff. Some of you might be wondering why not run Thunder 5, Burst 3, and Wex 2 with lock on. So you will notice that in MHN compare tool, the Burst 3 set will outdo the Burst 1 set by a teeny tiny margin. Considering that it only wins by 25 points, so cursed, we have to look at it a different way. Which are you going to be more consistent with? Of course, the one that runs less in Burst, with practicality assessment switched on, and I think a practical efficiency of 90% on charge blades is quite generous on average, while weakness exploit at 85% is kind of fair. The other build then overtakes. That being said, you're probably going to have very similar results on both setups. The difference is extremely marginal, so don't worry about it. Here's the alternative set that lets you run some quick work or focus. Recommended Eye set. Previously, you would be running Eyes 5 with critical Eye 3. In this new set, you will get Eyes 5, Weakness Exploit 2, critical Eye 2, and lock on. Here's an alternative set that lets you run some quick work or focus. Recommended Dragon setup. Previously, you would be running Dragon 5, critical Eye 1 with Special Boost 2. Now you can go Dragon 5, Weakness Exploit 2, and Special Boost 2 with lock on. Here's an alternative set that lets you fit in some quick work or focus. Okay, lastly, we have status builds. Very exciting. This build is for Paralysis Gyro's weapon. Guys, this is seriously good for multiplayer, so don't hold back if you'd like a support type build. I personally have a few hunt buddies on this build, and the status sneak attack skill has proven really effective, paralyzing monsters and even Devil Joe 2 to 3 times in a single hunt. Consistently, you'll be running status sneak attack 4, paralysis attack 2, and lock on. If you require a bit more repositioning to the back of the monster or want to be less punished by not maintaining position, then go for this setup. Status sneak attack 3 and paralysis attack 3 with lock on. Lastly, a new addition that leverages on status sneak attack is the poison weapon. I call this build the Joe Buster because aside from being weak to poison and taking a crazy amount from poison ticks naturally, somehow the buildup of poison in Devil Joe is faster than other poison weak monsters. This has nothing to do with status sneak attack skill. I just think the poison threshold for Devil Joe is lower than in other poison weak monsters. Please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it definitely feels so. Anyways, for your poison weapon, usually you want to go with a regular raw setup, but specifically for Devil Joe, throw in some status sneak attack and poison attack. You're going to be destroying him, even at 9 stars Devil Joe. That's if you're aiming for a max grade poison charge blades, which I don't think is a popular choice, but if any of you were contemplating it, then this is a nice situational setup that you can prepare for your poison charge blades. Alright guys, that's all I have. If you found this helpful, please leave a like or say hi in the comments. Trust me, I love hearing from you guys. Even if you've got criticism, it only helps me get better. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye bye!